Good morning, family. This is your brother. I'm doing like 10 things at one time, so bear with me. Good morning. Welcome to the Anchor Club. It's your brother. My name is Melvin Jackson. I'm your host. I'm your speaker. Yes, sir. I am my brother's keeper. I am your messenger. Stand by for your message today. Give us some food for thought. Give us some direction. By the grace of my Father, our Father, I'll bring it to you, and that's my job. I take my job serious, and I am here, and I am accounted for. As you always see me, have my scripture close to me. Welcome. The first time you're joining us, you are certainly in the right place. I pray that the Father lead us in a better and a higher understanding of who we are, what we seek, what we were born to do. I hope I clear that connection so you can make the changes that you need to see fit in your life. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to me, and it should be something to you that you can press that button and it'll bring you right back to your brother. For the messages are many, but workers are few. And our Father select who those are. Sometimes we don't even know when we're selected. We're too busy, if you pardon my expression, in my case, running amok. So it slows me down, gives me something to think about. Today is a part 2 to Father's Day. Depend on my Father for all things. Teach me about myself. Show me who I am. Teach me the things that I need to go forward. One of the things I'd like to speak on today is when God separates you and you begin to start your walk by yourself. And scripture speaks of several times of there's a time for everything under the sun. It's a time to come together. There's a time to pull away. If I could share with you some of the experiences that I went through as a young man, fighting and struggling to find my place in all of this, if you will, confusion. Sometimes it seems like a lonely place, and I'm sure for good reason. It's easy, beloved, to become followers. Very hard to become a leader. Once again, when we're selected to those things, it's anybody's guess, certainly not mine when I was younger, that's what I was about. I didn't understand it. All I did understand was a change was starting to happen in me, and I didn't realize what that change was. It's only when I rid myself of all of the things that was before me, if you will, start to clean out some of my old ways. And I guess a big part of that was becoming a follower of other people's idea. Is it fair for me to say it was your idea that got me in trouble when I always had a choice to go along, to be a part of, longing, I should say, to be a part of something, but not being able to select what's good or right with me or for me. Um, just being along for the ride, being a part of something, only to find I have no place in that, driving me to a better or higher understanding of myself. But I'm talking of the beginning. Just like anything else that doesn't add up at a given moment of why I am the way I am, only starting to embrace who I am and why I am, that lead me further into what God has in store for me. It is certainly only fair for me to say what others people find comfort in that I don't necessarily find that for myself. At what point of my life do I really, or can I pinpoint when those things started happening to me? Sometimes when things happen, they're so subtle, I don't necessarily understand them or why they are that way. Certainly when I am in the midst of those things. All I know is that I can remember is, like I said earlier, finding myself in situations that I really didn't bargain for, if you will. Knowing when I loaned myself to trouble and mischief, um, I used to seem like I'd be the one that get caught. Little did I know that was good for me because I had to see what those things meant. And if I stay in those directions, it would only get worse. And if I'm not seeking that, it start me to reason that sometimes I'm better off by myself. Very little did I understand or know that God was calling me. So I had to go through those things. The old expression is I'm not sure of what it is, but when I am faced with certain things, I am assured that that is not it, if you will, causing me to search further, all the way up into the point where I start to become a loner because I was trying to figure out things for myself, getting to know myself, what's pleasing to me and what is not pleasing to me. Those things certainly led me to where I am at this very moment. And 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 I will say it was very beneficial to me. Those lonely days that I've spent by myself, um, almost getting tired of my own company, if you will. Looking back on those things and trying to put my finger on some of those things, I hear people use those expressions when it comes to what they call social skills and being a part of things. If if I don't select the better part of those things, then where do that leave me? Uh, I make mention when I was younger, I was, and I probably called myself that, like a little rascal. I was all over the place, all into everything, only to find out that that those things didn't serve me. And then as I got older, like I said, I started finding myself being more to myself. But to the credit of what I'm speaking, but I had to undertake those times or those moments, if you will. Lo and behold, I look and I say that I became a leader of myself, learning what makes me happy and what don't. Being dragged into a group of people that sometimes I found myself, like I said in some of the other videos I explained, um, I I had no interest in some of these things, but being in the company of people that do these things, I find myself doing them. And I use my reasoning of just because what? Just because I was there, just because I can't find nothing else to do. Those reasonings certainly didn't hold water, if you will, only for me to run out of those reasonings or reasons, excuse me, um, and finding myself again, once again, by myself. There's a good part of that, as I explained, some parts of early manhood, if you will, um, was controlling myself, and that took for me, for one like me, took time for me to get into the point of understanding the importance of being held accountable to myself. Because as you know, parents, like my parents, used to look on me and say, why'd you do that? Why were you there? Why, big question, why? I had no answers other than to say, I just did it because I was there. As I grew older, those reasons don't stand firm with me, certainly anymore, because I had now realized that I was learning how to think for myself, do the things that made me happy. And it separate a lot of confusion of how I used to feel with wanting to be a part of something. But yet I hadn't picked a direction to be a part of a lot of the negative things that rolled through my head by the company that I used to keep. Um, Start to reassure me that being by myself was okay. After a while, I grew into fit. It fit pretty good with me as I started enjoying my own company, pick and choose the things that I wanted, and didn't focus on what other people were interested in. Being a loner, once again, at times, I used to feel lonely, if you will. Probably had a lot to do with being around a lot of people before, and now all of a sudden I'm not loaning myself to that. So where do I go? What do I do? I had to learn these things, beloved, before I started to make the most of who Melvin was. And so, like you, if you will, or those that maybe experienced those things, understanding that it was going to lead to something I had no idea. Changing a direction sometimes is not the easiest thing to do, but I had to go through what I had to go through to learn that those directions were not of me and not my ideas. So I started my walking my walk, if you will, with being by myself. Again, I liken it to being around a lot of people and being lonely because I'm not being fed. Um, Either the things that I had in mind was boring to the people, to the company that I was keeping. When I maybe suggested or open up my mouth and they look at me and they said, "Oh man, come on, that's boring. No. We want excitement. We want to get into everything." And like I said, it didn't pay off for me. When God starts to separate you, because leaders are few, followers are many. Sometimes just doing your own thing, if you will, suggests that when people watch you, they are encouraged by you. I was so busy with myself, I didn't I didn't see those things, nor did I look for them. And probably thinking back, that was probably the last thing on my mind, was to be an example for somebody. I was just trying to bring my own self under control. But lo and behold, I don't make myself out to be more than I am, but becoming a leader of myself was the beginning to where God was taking me. Like I said, the fitting myself to the understanding of the things that was going on around me, it started making sense. Maybe it didn't make sense to other people. I used to get teased a lot when I used to come and go, whether I was coming from work and going home after work, and after working all day, I'm tired. I want to go and get some rest. And I run into my friends and they, come across like they really miss me or whatever. Maybe they did. And they used to call me Bims. That used to be, I don't know how that came about, but it's another story. And they used to say, "Hey, what's up, Bims? What you doing? Where you going?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I'm going to take these clothes off, man. I'm tired, man. I just finished work for the day." And then that would cause me to get rest because I was tired from my little work, whatever it was. And probably every now and then when I did come out the building and I showed up to hear what's going on, it's almost like old habits, if you will, take time to break. So I come out and I see my buddies, my crew, if you will, sitting on the bench, and I come, "Hey, yeah, what's up? What's up? How you doing? What's going on? This is this and this is that." And then when I hear nothing new to my hearing, I started um, becoming, like I said, disinterested in it. And some of the things that I heard was a good idea of why I didn't loan myself to that. "Oh, you heard what happened yesterday? Oh, so and so got caught and blah blah blah," and everybody laugh and forget about that one that got caught and now what he got to face. It became a joke. And again, as I got older and older, situations were still similar to those things. Becoming separated from some things take a little getting used to. But the more I did it, the more I liked it because it was something appealing to me. At that age, I know some of my friends, we were starting to get to a point where we're 17 and 18 years old. Now we were able to go to bars and be around elders or grown people, and we see them act out. And I guess the funny thing about the strange thing about growing up is when you see those things, you kind of pinpoint what you think you're like, from dispositions. Some people used to be slow to anger. But when you get them worked up, believe me, you don't want to do that because you people misunderstand because somebody's quiet that they're not aggressive or that I went through a lot of similar things like that. Again, only to find out that I like myself better this way. I like being in control. I like doing what I do. In fact, when I started getting older and I started picking out uh, my company, if you will, whether it was just a girlfriend or just a friend, a female, if you will, I found more comfort and more enjoyment being around them than with other guys that wasn't going in my direction. So I, I used to get pulled away from them just hanging out with them, with my girlfriends or lady friends, if you will. And so that took a good portion of me away from what I was doing in the direction that I was facing. Only to get again to the point as I got older that I started hearing bigger and better ideas to what I was doing. And sometimes as my age was fitting into the things that young people of my age that was starting to stretch out and see, um, it was encouraging to me. I mean, that I could recall, if you will. I think the first time that I was on an airplane that I could recall was, I'd say, somewhere in the 30s, if you will, the 30-year old, if you will, as I gotten older and I started sharing or being around people that would share ideas and different things that they were going through to that age, uh, 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 um, older and more mature, they were beginning to travel and do things that where I came from, sometimes they were doing the same. My friends back then were doing the same things. Only thing that they were getting older, but they were doing the same things, and it became, like I said, it became boring to me, and I wanted to do other things. Um, I recall going to the Bahamas for the first time on my own, and saved enough money while I was working, and I wanted to take my first trip away, if you will. And I could recall just talking about it or just thinking about it at this moment that I went to the Bahamas. The first time I was on an airplane by myself, going on vacation by myself. Um, I can't begin to tell you what that did to my mind in terms of my exposure of the level where I was beginning to think on that would allow me to do those advanced things. I can't tell you how important that was for me to see the outside, if you will, of that area that I it's almost as if I stayed where I was, I would have never experienced those things. But because I used to separate myself from those things, I found myself to do some of the things that I always wanted to do. Didn't know how to do. Probably if I did and was fortunate enough, somebody would have probably taken me because I didn't know how to afford that to myself. But nevertheless, I found myself doing those things. And the more I did those things, the more I started seeing things different. I started going after things that was of interest to me. Once again, a lot of those things started out when I started separating myself from earlier company. That was the advancement of the things that I needed to see, hear, and know, to see what it meant to me and how it fortified me and how it made me want to do things similar and more. It aimed me in the direction of being maybe one of my first, or if I could say I was one of my first of one of the first guys in the group that I used to run with that 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 was able to have my to get my own apartment, and that was big. It sounds like it's not, but it was. Once again, it showed me how I'm able to do that, how I'm able to manage. It put me where I needed to be in terms of responsibility, how to take my paycheck and separate it, if you will. This is for rent. This is for food. This is for clothes. Um, a lot of times I didn't have a lot to work with, but when I was responsible with what little I had, it was enough for me to maintain the early steps of the things that we're talking about. Once again, being exposed, you have no idea how important that was to me. Somebody would look at what I was doing, probably say, "Oh man, that's corny." And again, that's people's way of thinking or your company's way of thinking, but that's maybe not your way of thinking. Because when I look back now in hindsight, certainly, and I look at those things and I said, this led to that, led to this, led to that, led to this, led to that, and on and on and on and on. Advancement sometimes is like that. For me to do that, I had to get away from everything that I knew up to a certain point. It was the best thing that happened to me because, again, it led me into knowing who I am, accepting who I am, and taking my life from one point to another to please myself for once, and not just to get along and follow this one and if you will. I was becoming my own leader. It's so important to separate yourself at some point because it's almost like having the music too loud in your ear. You can't appreciate it. You can't sometimes think straight with so much going on. And to add to that is those things that you're doing is not really who you are. You're along for the ride. You know the old expressions I used to remember my parents or teachers or the teachers of yesterday used to say, if he jumps off the roof, you're gonna jump too. I think it was just a measurement of how far are you willing to go when it comes to following somebody else. At what point do you make your stand and become a leader of just yourself? And once again, what becomes attractive is to that open ear. When you hear different things, it becomes attractive because not just that you hear it, you start to weigh it out. If I'm making sense, if I'm talking to somebody, I believe I am. You know, you know who you are, and you know what stands to reason and what don't. Stop following everybody. Please, beloved, understand, even grown people, if you will, that lend themselves, if you will, to other people's idea and dreams and what they want. Some people, I'm so sorry, beloved, to say this, but not just that they don't want anything, they certainly don't have the answers of how to obtain them things. If if you start to think larger, but the company that you're with isn't of that level, what I find happen once again is that they start to lose you or you lose them because you're not encouraged by what they're encouraged with. You start looking at the so-called shortcuts, which are always the long way around, but then you have to see, feel, and hear that for yourself. You have to bear witness to your own movement. That's what separates you from other people. Well, you got to go after what is appealing to you and not just along for the ride anymore. Maybe when you're younger, you haven't figured those things out yet, so you do things basically with no solid reason behind you as to why you do those things. Separating yourself from things is sometimes the best thing that can happen to you. You go through those moments of trying to figure out why you feel lonely, but when you're in a crowd of people, how could you feel lonely? It, those answers are within you, but then you have to learn how to search for those answers of yourself. And sometimes sitting still is a discipline by itself. Or if I'm not feeling well, or I'm sick, if you will, or my leg is hurt, or my arm is hurt, or or I got stitches, or I got a cast on my foot, whatever it is that slows you down. Sometimes those are kind of meant for the reasons other than the injury. Sometimes it is meant to slow you down, to give you a chance to catch your breath, as the old saying goes, to give you a chance to start to know who you are and pursue the things that make you happy. I understand, the old expression, everything isn't about you. Well, this moment that I'm talking about is about you. And it's all right to be about you because we all have to find our way with all that's going on around us. So that challenge is for you. You see, beloved, sometimes when people are at the stage or reach the stage where they're looked at as, and not maybe so famous, or they have arrived, or they finally reached where they want, in the process of that, if you will. And when you hear those interviews sometimes, what how did you come about where you are at this moment? How'd you get here? What led you here? Sometimes the fair part is, for me, I have to be honest and say I don't know, or at that time I didn't know. It just happened. I was chosen for that, and I did that. Lo and behold, it led me to where I'm at. I hear the brother say sometimes he was a stumbler. That sounds like me. I stumble left and I stumble to the right because I'm I call it stumbling, and there's nothing graceful about it, because as I stumble, if you will, I find myself in different directions. And I think the stumble suggests that I go in a direction that I have no idea where I'm going. That's probably trying to explain how somebody could stumble. They're not in charge. If I aim towards a direction, it's different. If I stumble into a direction, it release me of understanding where I'm going and what's about to happen and I had no idea, only that as I stumbled and I tried to regain my balance from the stumble, I find myself to the left or to the right of any given direction, only to lead me from a perfect direction. My encounters, I look back and I said, that's my father. My father almost stand by unnoticed, because until I reach a certain point, am I able to appreciate that stumble? Because sometimes I don't give credit to stumble. To go about life stumbling is not one that brags about I was a stumbler, if you don't mind me keep using that word, but it sometimes gives a little explanation towards it. I had no idea where God was taking me, what I needed to see, what road is best for me. Um, Coming back to scripture, I hear my father saying, it is better to walk during the day than it is at night. Why? Well, during the day, you can see where you're going. At night, your vision isn't as clear, causing you, if you will, to stumble. During the day, you see the big rock in front of you, or you step over it or go around it. But at night, you don't see it and you walk right into it, causing you to stumble. Those things, when I look back in hindsight, again, that I see when God leads me, sometimes when my best defenses are down and I am unaware of what's happening to me, other than the fact that I'm changing a direction. God knows what I need before I need it. And He gives me what I need despite my own ignorance. For it's when I run into them that I understand the importance of being a loner, to be about my own business, if you will, and to stop following and doing things that everybody do. Start making sense in my maturity towards what I want in life. Advice is one thing. There's good advice and there's bad advice. But I have to have a mind to sort what is good for me and what's not. Oftentimes I had to make the wrong decision only to know, let me be careful when I make those decisions. As I get older and became a young man to a mature man, then those things have to catch up with me, because those are the makeup of that, or that level, if you will. I say and I say again, everything changes, including me. I am no different. So when I look and feel for my way through all the hell that's going on around me, then I'm better suited to to fix my position and to accept things that I didn't know about. And I say that in meaning, again, towards a direction, a job that didn't really have a great future, if you will, maybe even a low level job or entry level job, but the job taught me how to be responsible, how to be on time, how to keep my job, and understanding that the things that I obtain in life, in order to keep them, I have to hold my position. For once I lose them, I go back, if you will, like taking a step back instead of a step forward. Sometimes with me, I had to do those things to get those ideas out of my head that understand what's good for me and what's not. Those all come in maturity, certainly in the way that I am speaking at this very moment. So being a loner is not bad. Being a loner, I think it's good, because again, as scriptures say, there's time to come. There's a time to come together, and then there's a time to fall away or separate. And those are the things that I'm speaking of. Younger people as well as older people that maybe skipped that, if you will, or did not get that the first time around. It comes around again. And finding when you're not comfortable, when you're not happy, start to learn to examine yourself to why those things are, and not just accept them for what they are. That's why I think it's important for us, when we find our way through life and try to understand what we're trying to obtain in life and where we're trying to go. It's not always for everybody. Sometimes, like I said, some will try to throw you off the mark. Oh man, you ain't got to do that, and oh man, you shouldn't do, because they don't want to do it or they don't want to face it. But should they discourage you from that? You can be discouraged if that's who you are, and maybe you will. because somebody steal your dream from you and you don't even realize it. What kind of friend is that? One is confused that want you to join the confusion. What benefit is it to you? You got to seek your own place in life, I find. And there's a time to do it. It's a time to get it all off your chest, like the old expressions say. And then once you do, your listening becomes clearer or better. The picture, if you will, becomes clearer. What you're trying to shoot for becomes clearer. What you need to do to get there becomes clearer. It's when you walk during the day, as my father suggested. My light is the day of the lighter day, and I'm the light of life, scripture tells me. My father is most important. My father is not corny. I'm corny. My old friends are corny. The way I was living with, excuse me, how I was living was corny. Don't let people rename the things that's important to you, that you should look at them as less than what they are. But ones don't know, many don't know what God is doing or working with you to do. That's between you and your Father. That you can share with people if you choose. Sometimes it's hard to even identify it as that. This is one ride that's a good ride to go along, because everything that is showing you is the embetterment of you and yourself, even when you become grown, if you will. And now you're a man. And now you have to start to think as a man. You can't run around a full man and think as a child. You're disproportionate. Your body's big and has grown and has matured, but your mind is still little, childlike. It can't be that way, beloved, and it shouldn't be that way. Being to yourself, leading yourself, seeing where that take you. You've already seen what being a part of ones that don't think like what we're talking about. That's corny. It's played out and it's boring. And all you got to do in terms of looking forward to something is not only to probably stay where you're at, you probably go even lower. Just when you think you can't, that you can. So when your calling come, be of good cheer and try to understand that that's who you are, and God is aiming you towards your future. Most important. Get all of that garbage out of your system, following and doing everything that everybody say. I'll say this for men, and I'll try to do this respectfully. I overheard several times of how people deal with their physical nature when there's a calling and they don't understand their nature. Could you imagine taking your life seed and spreading it, spraying it, excuse me, and close the little one ears, because this is not for them, to the ground, because you want the pleasure, but you don't want responsibility. You want the physical attraction, but you don't understand, if you don't control it, what comes of it. Family, beloved, you can't stay ignorant to everything. Following out somebody to some gentleman club. What's gentleman about it? It's not healthy and it's not good. And you take what little earnings that you do have and you make it rain. Seriously, you understand what you're doing to do what? To attract somebody that you're not even interested, that you don't know, to spread your seed, to give you your life force to your very desire. And then when it's time, excuse me, you put it in a bag or throw it to the ground. You know how disrespectful that is to the very nature? It challenges even birth control, because it says if you want to control it, then don't do it. Abstain. How many people talk about abstain and control and mastering themselves? Why? Why don't they talk about that? It's not attractive. Why is it not attractive? It calls for discipline. Why do I need discipline? Because you're in control of what you do. You know, beloved, I know certain conversations are for certain things, so I try not to mix, but sometimes I have to speak to the righteousness of some things. Being in control of yourself and learning how to be a loner. How do you learn to be alone? Because there's discipline involved. The self sometimes don't want to be under control. It wants to cry out its own desire. And if I don't understand it, I give it what it wants, only to the detriment, only for something comes out of it that doesn't strengthen my position. I'm giving way to a part of myself that I don't understand. How am I going to understand this? Since I'm in the company of fools, which fool could explain that to me? And if he was not a fool, maybe he could explain it to me. But he is committed to the same foolishness that I'm trying to get away. It's being in the company of people that's not giving you what you need. Being a loner is a good thing to me, for I am one that struggle with discipline. It's becoming my friend now because I see it betters me to control myself. I can't loan myself to nonsense like I used to. You know the old expression, oh, do you? The hell with anything else. Do you? Do what you like. You don't got to think about it. You feel it, run with it. It's that very thing that we're talking about that has to be controlled. Your nature has to be controlled. There's no way of getting around that, trying to put that to sleep, trying to do the things that's not beneficial or healthy for you or your thinking. It doesn't add to make you a better. It doesn't add up to make you a better person. It adds up to make you a follower of what other people do, even when you find exception to what they do. Maybe that's why they use that expression, that if you're not a part of the solution, then you become a part of the problem. Beloved, these are the these are these that we speak of are one part of our journey. We don't want to stunt our growth. We want to allow our growth from head to toe and from toe to head so that we can make sense of who we are, what we want to be. All of these things, that door becomes open to finding out who you are and who I am and how we fit what life is showing us. It's the mathematics, if you will, of our upcoming. We become better. God don't mislead us. We follow right and wrong all day long. Scripture said it's already in us. We know when we're doing right and we know when we're doing wrong. We can't hide from ourselves forever. At some time, at some point in our life, we're going to be held responsible for the things we do. Your brother tries to make you aware of those things. This conversation fits multiple sizes, from young adults to adults. to ones that, if you pardon my expression, you keep skipping the class, then you know nothing of that subject. You can go through life skipping classes, but you walk away with absolutely nothing, let alone an understanding of it. We're still growing, beloved. I'm 70 years old. I'm still growing by the grace of God, that I am at this stage of my life open to those things. Maybe if I had somebody explaining those things to me, maybe I would have a different reverence for them. Some things I had to go to find out for myself. And like you, maybe you're searching this very day for some of those answers, but we're not going to come by them. They're not just going to, well, let me not say they won't drop out the sky, because if God allows them, they certainly will drop out the sky. But it's the time and the place that we give way to what we know things to be. We accept the truth. We're done lying to ourselves. And if we're not, then we'll keep lying to ourselves until we catch on. Sooner or later, you got to catch on. Beloved, this is something that I think we need to think about. Young people, even older people. It makes our life better, makes us happier, and we enjoy more peace, if you will, internal peace within ourselves. Imagine everything seems like it's going right on the outside, but we're not happy. What is it that's eluding us? Why are we not happy? We need to search for what those things are. Those things are important to each individual. Don't let nobody chump off your thoughts like it has no value. It's for you. It's not for them to see. You're becoming a leader of yourself. Allow yourself the opportunity. Since my brother used to say it, you've been in the company of fools your whole life. What can you be but one of them? Let us stop being a fool. Let us stop following a jackass. Excuse me. Lest we become one. Let's start to look at that reality and start to wear it and own it and allow it to shape us like it needs to. It's nothing like a good lesson, because you come away with a better understanding, praying and hoping that you don't keep making the same mistake over and over again. The dictionary speaks of that as insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. They label that insanity. Let's stop that insane thinking and start to change for the better. Start to feed ourselves the things that we need to prepare ourselves for the adventure and the support that our Father is going to give us. It's not corny to be successful within yourself. It's corny not to be. It's corny to have these things but not use them. It's not only corny, excuse me, it's borderline stupid. Maybe it's time for us to stop being stupid. And it's time for us to grow up. Get in place, get in line, if you will, to where we need to be. We are in need. We lack answers. For I wouldn't feel the way that I felt if I weren't. Leaders are made and shaped by sometimes being by ourselves. And that may be when we're willing to join, if you will, or we actually don't have to do much joining, because when people start to see the direction and the things that you're doing in your life, it it's appealing to others. And if it's not, then it should be. And then if it's not, something is wrong. Well, you're not a good leader if you lead yourself to the wrong part of where God is trying to take you. There's nothing, absolutely nothing to gain by it. I like to get into more scripture as we speak, because those things fortify them. My truth, the truth. Because the other thing is not the truth. The other things that they're lies, and they trick and fool you by them, try to be attractive by them. They're not. They're not. They're actually our downfall, but we're not wise enough to know how to pick and choose. Sometimes we do have to learn things in life. I'm not trying to skip that process, because that is also a part of its process. But when we reach that point, maybe, maybe, maybe because of this conversation, that we might not be confused, that you're being pulled away to be accountable to yourself. Take the lesson, learn, see what it has for you. If it's better than where you are, then it's a good direction. Because where we are right now, it's not that. That we do know. So, family, once again, thank you for loaning me your ear. My Father, open up that canal of yours, that this wise thinking will fortify you, give you what you need, give you the driving force to aim in a better direction. We're about bettering ourselves and not just settling for where we are. Those things aren't. The days of kidding ourselves are over. It's time to make sense now. Put your life in order. Go out there. There's things, all sorts of good stuff waiting for you. Prepare yourself for those things. That message been delivered. It made it to the ears that need to hear it. Loan yourself to the very idea, for it will fortify you, strengthen you. Then maybe when you see your family or your brother or your buddies, you have something that can maybe improve that or improve them. One of us get help off the out of the water onto the boat, then we help somebody else. That's who we are. That's what make us a family. So thank you, beloved, for listening. I hope, I know, but I still hope that this message make it to the ear that need to hear it. I trust in my Father to say, you just do what I tell you to do and leave the rest to me. And shall I do that as your messenger? So thank you for listening. Carry this message on with you. Share this good, good thinking with another family member or another brother. Let's start sharing things that fortify us, not nonsense. We got enough of that. So once again, thank you. Thank you for being a part of us today. Once again, this is the Anchor Club. My hope and my dream is to get you to anchor to your Father. And if you find yourself falling short, anchor to me, for I am surely anchored to my Father. So thank you, beloved. I love you. I am my brother's keeper, and that's what I do. Love your family, love yourself. Give a thought. God willing, don't let this be the last time you hear your brother's voice. By the grace of my Father, I will be back. Thank you, family. And if you see fit, please leave a comment. I'd like to know what you think. I love you, family. And I greet you in the word of peace. Have a good day. God bless you and your family. Amen.